Hello, my name's Alice and I'd like to talk to you about my new paper in Third World Quarterly entitled Patriarchal Unions equals Weaker Unions. So this paper explores how we can improve wages in the garment industry. As you know, that many of the people who work making our clothes do so in dangerous, unsafe and poorly paid conditions. And besides some of the previously noted obstacles and constraints faced by these workers, this paper highlights how gender ideologies shape industrial relations in the garment industry. And to begin with, it theorises social norms. So when we talk about social norms, other people often refer to an aggregate quality of a society. But what exactly is that? Well, some people talk about discourses or performance. But how would other people's performances influence my behaviour? I suggest that in order to understand the causes of social change and continuity, we need to understand people's reasons for acting, their beliefs and their desires. Not other people's performances, not behavioural characteristics, but their internal mental states. And here I think we need to distinguish between two types of beliefs. One is your internalised ideologies. So those are your personal endorsed assumptions. So for example, I might think that because I'm a woman, I'm not a competent leader, for example. We also can think about people's norm perceptions. That is their beliefs about what other people think and do. For example, I might regard myself as a perfectly competent leader, but be reluctant to put myself forward because I'm concerned about how others will perceive and treat me. Maybe they'll vilify me, maybe they'll condemn me for being an outspoken, assertive woman. And I think it's important that we shift to this idea of norm perceptions because it explains the causal relationship between our observation of society, seeing women condemned for being outspoken, and then me changing my individual behaviour because I want to secure people's social respect and I'm concerned about sanctions. The other reason it's important to distinguish between social norms and individuals' norm perceptions is because within a given society there can be a diverse range of views about what's appropriate or what's legitimate for men and women to do. So if we talk about social norms as a single aggregate quality of a given society, we miss out on that heterogeneity. So instead I think we need to look at an individual's norm perceptions, and these may be diverse within a society. So in thinking about norm perceptions, I highlight in this article, drawing on a wealth of evidence of ethnographic research from East Asia and South Asia, highlighting how people's expectations and anticipation of acquiescent women and assertive men shape industrial relations in the garment industry. So the garment industry is a predominantly female workforce, about 70 to 90% of the workers are female. But most of the managers, the supervisors, the regulators, the parliamentarians and the trade unions, that is the representatives, are men. And so lots of the ethnographic research highlights how you might see a row of men seating on chairs and women on the floor squatted at a union meeting, and the men tend to lecture at them rather than listening to them. And often in the collective bargaining agreements, these might be silent on gender issues of maternity discrimination, sexual harassment and equal pay. And if women feel that their union representatives or that their managers don't listen to them, they'll be less likely to speak out, less likely to share their concerns about sexual harassment, less likely to share their concerns about working conditions because they don't expect to be listened to. And if women don't engage, if women aren't active members of trade unions, and this is something that has been noted globally, if women aren't active members because they don't believe that they'll be listened to, that weakens the collective power of the trade union movement, which is hugely significant in a predominantly female workforce. So these patriarchal, authoritarian leadership really influences the industrial relations in the garment industry. So what can we do about it? How can we change these social norms? How can we address these norm perceptions? Well, in this article, I highlight that the tendency is to focus on women's deficits, to presume that women have got something wrong, that they haven't got enough confidence, that they need to learn about their rights. So we see a lot of NGOs built doing rights-based awareness, training women about their rights. And the problem is that people tend not to believe that. You know, they hear these rights and see that they're just something that exists on paper. Whereas if they go out into the world and they see that women are condemned for speaking out, they see that women are sexually harassed, they may not have this may not shift their norm perceptions. They may not change their beliefs about what they think other people will think and do. So we know from a wealth of research that people's gender beliefs, their norm perceptions, are shaped by their observation of the world around them. So we need to change the world that they observe. rather than address the beliefs directly. So one way we can do this is through occupational desegregation, supporting more female supervisors, more female managers and more female mechanics. And then people would see that women are equally competent in socially valued male-dominated domains. And that would lead people to slowly and incrementally question their gender beliefs. A second step is to build support for ongoing feminist campaigns. There are a wealth of feminist campaigns, of women's social movements across Asia. Those could be further boosted. A third option is to build support for horizontal, pan-Asian networking and horizontal learning. Seeing other people successfully mobilize builds people's confidence that yes, they too can change things. There's a Cambodian proverb, Khmer proverb, an egg can't hit a stone. But if people start to see that in other factories, in other countries, women are making these progress through unionization, they might become more confident about what can happen in their own domains. But the paper ends with a really important caveat, that one of the major drivers of low wages and poor working conditions in the garment industry is factories and governments' concerns about buyer disengagement. That is, that if labour costs become too high, then buyers may retreat and go somewhere else, like Myanmar or Cambodia, and search for lower, cheaper costs. So this push for social change, this effort to change gender beliefs, is a necessary complement, but only a small part of what we need to do. Really, we need to tackle the international trade negotiations, tackle productivity and buyer agreements, so that retailers come to push for better working conditions as well. And that's my next challenge. So my next project is going to look at the Netherlands agreement, where buyers have signed up to this binding agreement to improve their working conditions. And so I'm going to look at its impacts in Bangladesh. But for now, in this paper, I highlight how gender ideologies, particularly norm perceptions, shape industrial relations. Thank you very much.